What is going on, everybody, and welcome to episode number 73 of the Talkin ATL Hawks podcast. We are back with your usual crew. I apologize for my absence last week. I was dealing with the flu.
There's no excuse that Andrew was there. Andrew was battling through it.
Hey, you know what? Andrew was a trooper and stuck it through. I did have it a little worse than Andrew did. My throat was really killing me, and it just hurt to talk. The more I talk about it, the more lame it sounds. So I'm just going to say sorry for my absence, but we're back to your usual weekly scheduled program with the most beautiful crew in the world. Geez, if I could talk. Starting with John, Andrew, and myself. Fellas, how are y'all doing on this fine March Sunday?
You know what? I'm doing great. Even though my Razorbacks lost in the what was it? Elite Eight, Sweet 16, something like that.
Sweet 16.
Yeah, Sweet 16, whatever. Anyways, I knew we were gonna probably lose that game. I just was hoping that it would be a close game, but Arizona is looking like a real deal. I think after what we just saw happen today, I think that they're the clear favorite to win.
That's who I had winning in my bracket was Arizona.
Yeah. I had both Iowa. I had Duke beating Iowa State in the national championship game. For those who aren't quite caught up to speed, well, Iowa State had a bad showing against Tennessee the other night. Duke lost to UConn today in one of the most heartbreaking fashions you're ever going to see in a March Madness game. So my bracket is cooked, but not all hope is lost.
Huh?
Because it's officially Brave season, boys. It's Brave season, boys. So how can you be sad when baseball season just kicked off this past weekend? The Braves won their opening series 2-1 against the Kansas City Royals. Chase and I had the privilege of being there for opening day on Friday night. Got the 6-year dub, including this dope little rally towel. So
y'all
the vibes are high.
opening games and stuff. I'm sure they all have some sort of OnlyFans or something they all do on the side.
Hey,
the money required.
Hey, as long
the games y'all go to is ridiculous.
As long as you don't look up tickletwins.com, you'll never know the answer to that question.
You don't know the episode we had to post to get the money for the Braves tickets to. I mean, we tickled for hours on end. We tickled until Chase's body did things I've never seen done before.
We had this one.
Is that why you got so sick last week? Is that why you were sick?
I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. Let's just move on.
All I know is we kept having this viewer named John Joyner that kept sending us money and asking us to do weird things. So I don't know what that was about.
I mean, that's probably why I can't afford to go to the as many games y'all go to.
He was our top donor that night, man. It was crazy.
I was doing it. Yeah, there you go, guys. That's why I can't afford to go to as many sporting games as these guys because I send them the money to go. So
you're
welcome.
Yeah, man.
Hey, if I could watch my own content, I'd understand.
Straight up, bro. Straight up. Every Tuesday night.
Tickle Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right.
But other than the Razorbacks weeks, my week was good. Had a good solid weekend watching the other March Madness games. I was hoping that Iowa would beat Michigan, but I mean
Nebraska. They lost to Nebraska.
Yep.
Wait. Yeah.
Wait. No, they beat Nebraska. I'm sorry. They beat Nebraska and they lost to Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah, they just lost to Michigan. So.
No, was it Michigan? Why am I forgetting? I'm sure it was. We got to look this up.
Yeah, it was Michigan. Wait, no.
They lost to Illinois. Illinois yesterday.
Yeah.
Michigan just beat the tar out of Michigan just
Tennessee.
beat the tar out of someone today.
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah, Tennessee. Yeah, they just beat the tar out of Tennessee.
Sure did.
So yeah.
Excuse me.
Who you got?
That's pretty crazy. That we're pretty much like guaranteed like a Big Ten team in the national championship.
Arizona's the last chance for there to be a team outside the Big Ten to win the championship this year.
Which
indeed,
they're playing.
Or UConn. I'm sorry, UConn has a chance as well.
Wait, they're playing. Arizona's playing Illinois, I think, right? And then UConn.
Illinois and UConn. It's Illinois, UConn, and then Michigan and Arizona. Which that's good. That might be one of the best Final Four matchups we've had in a long time.
That Michigan Arizona game might be better than this Duke UConn game.
It could be. That's one of the best Final Four matchups I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a good game to watch.
It's gonna be loaded, ladies and gents.
But I mean, like now that like Arkansas down got their butts kicked at Arizona, I'm going for UConn. I'm a huge Dan Hurley guy. I'm going for UConn.
I actually can't stand Dan Hurley with a burning passion.
I'm not a big Dan Hurley fan either.
I respect him as a coach, but I hate his personality. I think he has one of the worst sports personalities I've ever seen. I don't like the way he treats his players. I can't stand the way he treats his players and the media. He's very disrespectful towards the media. I know a lot of people are these days, but that's just my opinion. I think he's a very disrespectful guy, and it makes me not like him. But I respect him as a coach, and undoubtedly one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. Undoubtedly.
I mean, back-to-back March Madness champion. That's very hard to do. That's very hard to do.
So, no disrespect towards him. He's obviously a master of his craft.
So Andrew, I got to ask you before we get into Chase's star bench cut, like, who do you got for the national championship now that Duke's out? I know Chase has Arizona still. Who do you have?
I do.
Now that Duke is eliminated, I have no bias towards anything. I'm just going purely based on what I've seen so far. And I do think, as of right now, I think Arizona is the best team heading into this Final Four right now. It is going to be a tough ask for them to beat Michigan. I feel like if there's any team that has the capability of stopping them in their tracks, it is Michigan. But on the flip side, Arizona has proven dominance more so than other teams. They haven't squeaked by their ways like other teams here in the Final Four that do to get
them pummeling Arkansas. Like that's the reason why I can't root for Arizona. It's because of how badly they beat them. Like if it was a close game, I would have been like, okay, yeah, I'll root for Arizona. But like since they beat the mess out of Arkansas, I'm being biased here. I'm sorry. I can't root for Arizona. I can't.
Dropping 100+ on anybody in the Sweet 16 is definitely going to catch the attention of the media, including myself. So I'm going to have to give the nod to the Wildcats. I think they're the best offensive team probably in this entire March Madness bracket. And until they run into a defense, which might give them some issues, which very well could be that Wolverine defense. But that's going to be the prove-it matchup right there. If they get by Michigan, they'll be either UConn or Illinois. I'm sure of that.
Okay. All right, Chase, take it away.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. To be honest, I actually didn't. I'm not gonna lie. To be quite honest with you, I did kind of.
Yeah.
I think we lost him.
Chase, we lost you.
I think we lost him.
Chase, we lost you.
Let me go walk across the other room real quick. Here's a little. I can still hear him talking, so I think he thinks he's still on.
Now. His screen's black. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulty is that's just technology for you. Oh, you got removed.
Let me back in.
Well, you're not even showing available option. I see my screen from here. You just showed up. Okay.
Technical difficulties.
Hey, man, it's all part of the grind.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got him back.
And
Sorry,
he's back. Yay.
Sorry, fellas. I got a phone call. Someone called me on my phone, which is what I'm recording on. And every time someone calls me, it always kicks me out for some reason. But we're back to it. We're back to it. Admittedly, I to be honest, because I wasn't on last episode, I kind of got thrown off on whose turn it was. So I kind of didn't realize I was opening the episode.
It was was like technically like it would be Andrew, but since
right,
like last week you were supposed to go because you got sick and we all flip flopped. So yeah,
right. Which so I don't have a starfish cut per se, but I do have a conversation that we can kind of just discuss. As we're closing in on the playoffs, the Hawks and the Raptors are still battling for that 5th seed, and Toronto today, just a little bit ago, actually just beat the brakes off of the Magic, beat them by 42 points.
Yeah.
So now they have retaken official reign of the 5th spot as they are now half a game ahead. And the upcoming schedule for the Atlanta Hawks to end March and then the 6 games we have in April are pretty tough. We play Boston tomorrow night, who we just had a tough loss to on the road Friday night. And then
but they
April,
also don't have like if you like saw like Boston injury report, I believe like yesterday they didn't have Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They had like a bunch of guys out. So
and maybe that could be the case tomorrow night.
If they're out Monday, then there's literally no excuse not to beat them.
And it will be in State Farm Arena, where the Atlanta Hawks have won 12 games in a row. So currently one of the toughest places to play in the league. And then come April, we open with a road game, 2 road games, one in Orlando, who hasn't been the same since we beat him. I know they're missing Franz Wagner, and that's been proven to be a bigger loss than everybody originally thought. Then we travel to Brooklyn, which that should be an easy win. And then we come back home to face the Knicks, play Cleveland back-to-back, and then we end the season in Miami. So pretty tough stretch. So before we break down the 4 games from this previous week, I kind of just want to ask y'all just a simple question and open this can of worms. But would y'all say is the Atlanta Hawks' biggest weakness right now? And what do they need to do to turn it around so that way they're in prime position come postseason in April?
I got it. I already got it. Wait, immediately, and this is something that I've been saying for all my sports teams. It's staying healthy. Like I know like this past couple weeks, like injury report's been clean, but that needs to stay like that the rest of the season and for the playoffs. We cannot afford any injuries to anyone, because I personally believe our roster, when it's fully healthy, is one of the dangerous rosters in the Eastern Conference.
And I think you're right. We've been making this comparison a couple times, watching the Atlanta Hawks really all season, to be honest, offensively, because we do lead the league in total team assists by a pretty good margin, matter of fact. And, especially as of late, since the month of March started with the Atlanta Hawks, one of this really big success streak. The offensive game in terms of ball movement and chemistry is really, really mirroring. And I say this no joke, no jokes. I mean this truly. It really does mirror the early 2010 San Antonio Spurs with Greg Popovich, with Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Monty Ginobili. I'm talking about those San Antonio Spurs. One of the most influential offensive teams in recent NBA history, but really all of NBA history. And the Atlanta Hawks have been mirroring that. And it's a formula that's very simple, but very effective. And it's when everybody on the court touches the ball in one possession. It's constant ball movement. Everybody's involved. Everybody knows where everybody is on the court. They're always looking for the next window of spacing, and they're leading their teammates into that spacing. That's the type of offensive movement that Quinn Snyder has been field, and it clicks the best when everybody's healthy because it's just the chemistry that's been built since the All-Star break. Really, really since Trae Young traded and we got CJ McCollum and Kispert in. They've just gelled and meshed so well with what Quinn Snyder's been building, and that's why I continue to say that Quinn Snyder is one of the top coaches in the league. So, John, I completely agree with you. So I'll tag team you in that decision as well. But Andrew, what do you got?
Well, it's actually going to be kind of ironic because mine is kind of going to go against what you were just saying. I think the Hawks' biggest biggest weakness is the turnover problem that we face on a nightly basis. Now, I do agree exactly what you said about the ball movement. I think the ball movement has been very fluential. I like that word that you use, so I'm going to steal it from you. Very fluential, especially here in the month of March, and you do have to praise Quinn Snyder for that aspect. It is creating a lot of open shot opportunities for the Hawks sharpshooters, but if you're going to try to point out any weakness that this team has had in the month of March, I think the turnover margin is something that still doesn't call for great concern, but it does call for some concern, especially when the playoffs are approaching, because that is something that you absolutely have to nail down when it comes to the win or go home situations. And it's something that can be a quiet killer. Now, the Hawks have done a great job in response to some of these turnovers. And what I mean by that is that the opposing teams are not generating a lot of points scored off their turnovers. And that pays tribute to Quinn Snyder's effectiveness when it comes to teaching this rotation how to move back on defense, quick and transition opportunities, and get in the paint quickly, set your feet, stay grounded in your zones. And all that's been working very well. But there are subtle moments where it is a big noisemaker and interruption to the Hawks' momentum and flow of the basketball game. We're going to get into it more later, but take the Detroit Pistons game, for example. When we went into halftime with such a big lead, but then the Pistons opened up the first 5 minutes on a 20-1 run, there was a great deal of opportunities that we missed to score because of faulty turnovers, and a lot of those transitions did lead to the Pistons widening that gap and closing the margin. And now, obviously, we were able to respond effectively and not lose that game, but you can see how that can be a quiet killer if the Hawks do let that get the best of them. So it's a problem that I don't think is like, oh my gosh, the Hawks, this is killing us, because evidently it's not. You take a look at the Hawks' success this month, it's not killing us, but I fear that it's something that could get in the way of our momentum building when it comes to the playoff, which is a time and space, which we all know about, that error for margin is very slim when it comes to a 7-game series, especially in closeout games that the Hawks are going to face, or win or go home games that the Hawks might find themselves in. So it's something that I don't – sorry, go ahead.
I think that's a fair worry because the great examples this past Friday night against the Celtics, the Hawks started up. We were up by 16 in the first quarter. We went on a big 11-0 run in the second quarter. Third quarter came around, very similar to Detroit. We had a lot of costly turnovers that dug us a hole, and this time we weren't able to get ourselves out of it. But, looking at the over offensive numbers, the Atlanta Hawks are on the bottom half of the league in terms of turnovers per game. So collectively in the league, we do have one of the worst, one of the least amount of team turnovers out of all the leagues. So that kind of goes to your point. That's not a massive concern because on paper, it's not a big deal. But I do see your point, Andrew. And I do kind of feel like, though, when you're a team that leads the league in total assists by a large margin, and you have as aggressive ball movement as Quinn Snyder has built, then I think turnovers are just prone to happen, especially at the pace of today's NBA game. Sure. So, I think that's a problem that's going to happen kind of like inevitably, but I do see your point, Andrew, because it is an issue. You definitely have to limit that type of damage, especially in the postseason, if you're going to continue to be as aggressive offensively, especially when you run into some of the top defensive teams in the league, like Detroit, what happened in Detroit, or if you face a team like Denver and Oklahoma City, if we were to get to the finals, of course, then yeah, absolutely, that's a big worry to have.
And you're right, and it's something, and I think what you said shouldn't go unnoticed because if you take a look at the games against Detroit and the games against Boston, the turnovers we're having aren't necessarily bad turnovers,
Yeah.
especially in that third quarter against Detroit. I mean, there were some moments where it's like the Atlanta Hawks would try to do an extra pass that may have been unnecessary, and that kind of led to a loose ball situation, things like that. But it's not like outrageous, like we're missing cutting lanes or we're sloppy with our ball handling. It usually happens when the Hawks are trying to be too unselfish at times, which is a great problem to have. Because A, that's something Quinn Snyder could easily stick his hand in. And secondly, it just goes to show that this team is unselfish in the first place. And that if you're going to have any problem on a team, let it be being too unselfish. That's probably the best problem any basketball team can have. So I think you're right, Chase. It's something that can easily be managed under the right hands. And we have one of the best coaches in basketball. So even though it is a concern, it's not a big concern to me. I'm not worried about it.
So just real quick, just to go back to my point real quick about the injuries. It's like one of my favorite NBA YouTubers put out a tweet on Twitter. And once you have really good ball knowledge, so I trust this. So I trust this dude. He basically the tweet was games played since the trade deadline. Kristaps was Golden State 11, Kuminga with Atlanta 10. So Kristaps has played more games with Golden State than Kuminga has played with Atlanta. That's directly reflects our training staff. That's the only point that I want to make. And Kristaps only played maybe 5 games with us.
It's a fair point to make because Kuminga has had his fair share of struggles. Obviously, when he's been great, he's been really great. But he's had a couple of games where he posted lackluster numbers on the stat sheet. Kristaps Porzingis, every single game that he has played with the Warriors has been phenomenal, especially the game he played, I think it was last night, where he posted 27 points. He made 6 threes. He had a lot of rebounds. The Kristaps Porzingis.
He definitely turned the clock back, that's for sure.
The Kristaps Porzingis we thought we were going to have when we originally picked him up is the type of Kristaps that Golden State has had every single game he's played. Now, he's still missing a couple of games, of course, but like you said, John, it's definitely something to take note of that he's still played more games than Kuminga has in Atlanta. That's definitely something, that definitely draws at least some sort of concern for sure.
Yeah. So.
But I guess with that being said, we can go ahead and hop into what was a really good week of Atlanta Hawks basketball, as fits the theme this entire March. It started Monday night when the depleted, and when I say depleted, I mean depleted, Memphis Grizzlies came to town. They came to town without Cedric Howard, which was his 3rd game in a row, and it's due to personal reasons. It was unclear what those personal reasons were, but that's why he didn't play. Obviously, they were out John Morant, no Brandon Clark, no Jamal Mashak, no Zach Edey, no Santi Aldama, no Contavious Caldwell-Pope, no Scottie Pippen Jr. So when I say we were playing the Memphis G League team, that's exactly who we were playing. And it was so bad that I've never seen a coach more out of tune and just more just done with the season. Tumas Asalo, the Memphis Grizzlies head coach, that was hired last year. That the coach.
I generally didn't know who their head coach was. The last guy I knew was Taylor Jenkins, but I knew he got fired a couple
He's
years
Italian.
ago.
Which, by the way, I still stand by that was a horrible coach firing. I know that there were some locker room and front office issues, but Jenkins was building one of the best defensive teams in recent NBA history. And I surely there. I mean, I'm not too sure. I don't remember exactly down to the details of what these reasons were, but surely there had to be something you could work out because he was doing something real nice in Memphis, and it has been all downhill since then. But yeah. So, I mean, and this was a team. This was a game that was very healthy for the Atlanta Hawks. The only guy that didn't play was Jalen Johnson because of his left shoulder
Which,
inflammation.
I mean, like, did we really need him for this game?
No,
Honestly,
no, we didn't need most of
clearly
our
we
starting
didn't.
five.
We beat him by 30 other points, so clearly we didn't need him.
And this was the most dominant offensive game the Atlanta Hawks has had all season. It was their highest point total of the season. The Atlanta Hawks started the game off strong. We were up by 10 at the end of the first quarter, and we never looked back after that. At one point, we were up by let's see, I just had it right here. 41 points.
Wait, just 41.
Halfway through the third quarter, the Atlanta Hawks were up by 41 points. And like I said, like from start to finish, the Hawks just never looked back. It was a full team effort. Everybody at the table ate that night. I mean, when
Buddy
you're
Hield scored. That tells you something. He played 7 minutes and he scored. And he scored 3 points. So that tells you something.
I mean, if you're Quinn Snyder and you're playing a team this depleted, I mean, this was really like an open practice for the Atlanta Hawks. He was trying out new things, trying out different schemes and play calls, giving players a lot more minutes than they would typically get. 8 different players for the Atlanta Hawks scored in double digits. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was our leading scorer with 28 points.
26. 26.
Oh yeah, 26. Yeah, 26. Sorry, I said 28. Yeah, leading scorer with 26 points. But like I mentioned, you had other Hawks players that ended up with double digits. CJ McCollum, Neke Kongwu on 5 for 7 shooting. Dyson Daniels on 5 for 8 shooting. Jock Lando off the bench had 11. Kaminga was going on a little stretch where he was a little cold, very uninvolved in the stat sheet. Other than rebounds, he's always been a great rebounder since joining the team. But this was one of his better offensive nights he's had. 16 points on 5 for 7 shooting, made 4 threes, shot 4 for 6 from deep. Corey Kispert had a really nice night from deep, shot 50%. And then Zachary had 11 points, but he had a really nice stretch in that third quarter. So overall, just, I mean, a full team showing, a straight blowout, stress-free. There was nobody on Memphis' side to worry about other than Jackson. He did have a really nice night with 26 points. But everybody else, I mean, it was it was so funny because Ty Jerome was one of the most frustrated players I think I've ever seen, because Ty Jerome, if you remember from last year, was a really come out of nowhere type player for Cleveland, had a really nice playoff run for them, and really made a name for himself. So when Memphis acquired him, this was a really underrated signing, and it could have been so much more for the Grizzlies if they weren't dealing with so many injuries. But Ty Jerome, playing with a bunch of people who just could not mesh together. A bunch of players who spent a lot of time in the G League for a reason. It was so bad that in the fourth quarter, Ty Jerome would just pass the ball to nobody. He would simply dribble up the court. There was one point he literally took one step across a half-court line and just chunked it from deep. And he made
with like 19 seconds left on the shot clock.
He made 2 really deep threes in that fourth quarter, but a lot of the time, there was one point that he just ran to the corner and took a one-legged fader with 2 defenders in his face just because he was just that done with the team. So that's just the state of the Memphis Grizzlies right now. The Atlanta Hawks took full advantage of them. But hey, John, we're going to start off with you. What were your thoughts about this Monday night massacre?
I mean, just basically, like I said earlier, no jail, no problem. Just pure belty, you know what.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, like the thing that I enjoyed the most is like the guys that don't usually get to play, like Buddy Hield, Christian Coloco, Gabe Vincent, Will Houston, the guy, like those guys like played like I don't want to say meaningful minutes, but they played a good amount of minutes, more than they ever more minutes than they played probably more minutes than they played this season. So I mean, like that's always good. We could have is we're able to take your starting guys out. Take your starting guys out and rest up for a bit because like we needed that for the next game.
There was one guy that came off the bench. His name was Wheaton Collis. He shot three for 4 from deep. He did make 3 threes. And I thought that was. I think he was like a coach's son or a coach's nephew. That I think he talked to Auntie Salem, and they had an agreement to kind of let his son play because usually on the pickup games at school he's usually not picked, so he doesn't get to play a lot. So that was a really heartwarming.
You know what? It must have been like a Make-A-Wish thing.
I think it was. And it was a really cool moment. I mean, the team was getting really excited for him when he made a 3. It was one of those like feel good moments. I'm really glad the Atlanta Hawks did that.
Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts on
this
Make-A-Wish performance?
We know how this league works. We talked about the Stars episode about how the Hawks ball movement has probably been picture perfect in what Quinn Snyder has been trying to build in the practice facility. And I think there's no other game that we're going to talk about this episode that exemplifies that more than what we saw here. And sure, you can always talk about that the Grizzlies, they had no idea how to run that zone defense, and that's no fault to anybody else. I mean, like we talked about, or what Chase just talked about, the Memphis Grizzlies were depleted. These are a bunch of guys that have almost no team chemistry. And again, it's no fault of their own. It's just the state of the team right now. So you could argue that, yes, that was a big reason that bled into the open shots that the Hawks had all night. But I think a lot of it just does go down to the Hawks' excellent decision-making on the court when it came to moving the ball quickly. And that just led to open threes just about all night long. And because of that factor, the Atlanta Hawks did tie the franchise record for most threes made in a single basketball game at 25. We had a very good opportunity to break that at 26. Right in the final possession, it was a wide open look for Caleb Houston, but he did unfortunately miss. So we did just have to settle for the franchise tied record. But other than that factor, I mean, it was just full of great moments that, the bench was having fun. The players on the courts were having fun. There was that moment in the second quarter where Jonathan Kuminga stripped the ball at half court, gave it to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who went baseline and absolutely caught a body right on top of Ryan Rupert that led to an and-one dunk. So that was an exciting moment. John Landale had a really powerful dunk to open up the second quarter as well, which that was a nice little fun moment because for those who don't realize, he was playing his former team for the first time since being traded from that team. No, he did. He did play for the Jazz, but before he played for the Jazz, he played for the Memphis Grizzlies. You're right.
I'm getting confused. You're right. Yeah.
He never played a game with Utah.
For those who don't know, he was part of the Memphis Grizzlies team and played a solid 13 minutes when the Hawks went to Memphis several months ago, back in early January. So we actually did play against John Landale. But then, yes, Chase is right. He never actually played a game for Utah. He got traded to the Jazz, but before he could even play a game for the Jazz, he was quickly turned around and traded to the Atlanta Hawks.
He was boarding the plane to go to Utah when he got the news that he got traded to Atlanta.
Yeah. Right, yeah. I thought, I thought he was I thought we were playing Memphis that night. I didn't realize that we were playing Utah.
Yeah,
you're right.
But he did. John Landale did have a solid performance against the Hawks back in Memphis, but it was nice to have it done in a Hawks jersey this time. But yeah, everybody was eating tonight. I mean, it was just pure team basketball the way Quinn Snyder has built brick by brick. So I know there was no happier man in State Farm Arena than Quinn Snyder that night. And it's a game like, yes, on paper, it's like, of course the Hawks should have won this game by the way they did. But at the same time, seeing a game plan laid out on paper, but then executing it are two completely different things. You don't always get that execution factor, but the Hawks did it to premium condition, and we got the job done and handled business the right way. So yes, it's a win that's not impressive to anybody but us Hawks fans. But for us Hawks fans, we greatly appreciate it.
And speaking of a game that's not so impressive, while the Atlanta Hawks have undoubtedly been playing the best basketball in the league since the start of March, we can't really sugarcoat the fact that our schedule certainly hasn't been the strongest. Most of the month of March has been against teams towards the bottom of the league. Now, we did have that game not this past Monday, but the Monday before, when the Orlando Magic came to town, Magic City Monday, and the Atlanta Hawks absolutely blew them out of the water. Now, knowing the state that the Magic's in right now and knowing how much they're missing Franz Wagner, a lot more than we originally thought, that game, to some people's eyes, that win doesn't look as impressive and as influential anymore. The Atlanta people say that because right after that, the Atlanta Hawks took a trip to Houston, fully healthy, by the way, and got their brakes beat off by the Houston Rockets, which kind of pointed some fingers towards the Hawks. A lot of people saying, oh, they're only on a winning streak because of who they are playing. They're not actually battle tested. The Atlanta Hawks responded. They won their next 3, but now this past Wednesdays, when the Atlanta Hawks took an all-important statement-defining trip to Detroit, the top team in the Eastern Conference. And yeah, you can say, oh, but the collapse slung by Cade Cunningham, they don't have their prolific score anymore. And while that is very true, since Cade Cunningham's season-ending injury, or I say season-ending, he's actually predicted to be back, believe it or not, which is crazy. But
I don't know, collapse slung, that's like that. I genuinely think that he would. Unless the Pistons can go to the finals, I think he shouldn't play until the finals.
It's scary. They're saying that he should be back right before playoff time, which
that's crazy. That's crazy.
When the injury originally happened, I think most people did too, automatically assumed that he was never going to play basketball again for the rest of the season. But then a couple of days later, a report came out saying that his procedure went well, and the training staff says if he recovers by the timetable standards, he could be back right before the postseason. When I read that, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." That's absolutely insane.
On ESPN that night during the broadcast, they were talking about how he's already been running warm-up scrimmages with the team practice throughout the week, meaning he's back in action already. It's not on an NBA court, but he's running full scrimmages in practice, which means if he's doing all of that, then yeah, definitely he's going to be back before the playoffs, which I'm happy for the kid. I felt horrible for Cade Cunningham in Detroit when I heard that news. So
Detroit, though, I would sit him for the rest of the regular season because they already clinched the playoffs. They're in.
No point of playing in the rest of the regular season.
Not the regular season, but come postseason, absolutely, they're going to throw him back in a Pistons jersey.
Which the point is though, since his injury, the Pistons show no signs of slowing down. They were still playing like one of the top, if not the best defensive team in the league, and they were still beating some really impressive opponents. Right before this game against Atlanta, they had a game against the Lakers where they a fully healthy Lakers team where they absolutely blew the brakes off of them. That was a really impressive outing, and that was a statement win for them. Showing the rest of
not blew the brakes off. It came down to a game-winning shot.
But they were up by double digits most of the game. You're right. It did come down to the wire. But for most of the game, they did hold control, which is a statement win of its own for Detroit because they were showing the league that we can still be one of the most dominant teams, if not the most dominant team in the Eastern Conference at least, without Cade Cunningham. Needless to say, the Atlanta Hawks and the Pistons were both heading into this marquee Wednesday night matchup with so much to prove on each shoulder. there. Andrew, I'm going to put it to you to kick it off. How did that game go Wednesday night? On ESPN, on the national stage. They were trying to prove themselves, both teams on the national stage. And this matchup held a lot of weight.
Yeah, and the game got off to the best start possible, probably for both teams. But you had these high level offenses for sure. But one of the biggest highlights of this game was the two-winged monster that really makes this Pistons team one of the most feared defensively in the league, and that goes for Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren. Those two guys, one at the fourth spot, I said wing, but one at the fourth spot, one in the paint at center, really makes this team one of the most harsh teams to drive in on. And points are really hard to come by, and they really don't have any pressure points that you can attack and expect to get results. You have to rely on outside shooting, and the Hawks did that with fruition in the first few minutes of this game. Really, the Pistons did too. Both teams were just firing at all cylinders, but the spot-up threes were there early for the Atlanta Hawks. CJ McCollum, I mean, I'm sure either Chase or John is really going to hold in on fourth quarter CJ.
I don't know what shot I'm talking about.
Yeah, on fourth quarter CJ, but really just at the start of the game, CJ found his rhythm early. But then again, the problems did arise exactly where we thought they did once the Hawks cooled down for a little bit in the first quarter. Now, it didn't linger for long, but there was a stretch at the end of the first quarter where the Hawks were struggling to get points from the paint, mainly because of the presence of Jalen Duren and because of Asar Thompson. He's just got such quick hands, especially for a four. It really reminds you of the way Damian Lillard used to play defense when he was on the Trailblazers, just getting a lot of quick steals that led to easy transitions for his teammates. But Quinn Snyder, as he does in typical fashion, he always has a way to combat those flaws. And because of that, reassurance that the Atlanta Hawks were going to rely on our outside shooting. We did with the jump shot. The reboundings looked really great. Dyson Daniels especially, my goodness, his impact on the boards. We talk about it over and over again, but the 13 rebounds are going to speak for itself. Created a lot of second chance scoring opportunities for this Atlanta Hawks offense. Now, it did take a while for Jalen Johnson to catch his stride, but let me tell you, some of the deliveries on the assists that Jalen Johnson had early, I mean, my goodness, he was dropping dimes like you would have thought he was white chocolate out there. I mean, he was fitting them through tight windows. He was quick with his wrist. Got the balls off, and the moment a backdoor cut was open, like he was just seeing the court exceptionally well tonight. That just led to a lot of give and go baskets for the Atlanta Hawks. And needless to say, because of this formula, the Atlanta Hawks found themselves with a very, very comfortable 19-point lead going into the half. And that's where I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let either Chase or Jordan take over. But because we've already kind of hinted before, we've already thrown it out there. The Pistons did open up the second half on a 20-1 run. And it's because they attacked our weakness. They were able to identify it in the halftime locker room. The Atlanta Hawks were a little bit back-footed coming out of the break, and it's something that we did have to rebound very quickly from, and it did cause a lot of back and forth until the end of the game. But I'm going to let either Jordan or Chase pick off here.
Go ahead, John.
Chase, you can do it because I didn't really watch that 20-0 run. I think I was doing something else, but you can have this one.
No, not a problem. Yeah. The Pistons opened the third quarter, scoring the first 16 points. It was officially capped off to a 20-1 run, and it was like we mentioned at the start of the podcast, and it was something Angie hinted towards as well. Ball movement stayed the same. We were still having that, everybody touched the ball, offensive movement. We were still at those aggressive passes, especially down the baseline and outside towards the corners, except it did get a little sloppy in the aggression, and it turned into a lot of, not bad turnovers, but just great reads by the Pistons team that led to fast break opportunities. And they were really attacking inside because overall, this was a game that the Atlanta Hawks, I mean, they had their foot on the gas early, and it was one of those games that the Atlanta Hawks could have taken full control if a lot of the simpler things went right because the Pistons did not have a good night from deep. They shot 9 for 33 overall. A lot of their main point of attack was inside. They, I think, outscored us inside by 22 points. I think they had 72 points in the paint overall.
Which I mean, that's always been a thing for them, scoring.
Right.
Our paint defense is booty.
I said something I've said before in the podcast, and I really hate to say it, but if I'm being completely honest, Onyeka Okongwu's defense has really been mirroring Clint Capella's defense.
Yes, it has.
Towards his later stint with the Atlanta Hawks in terms of it's just not physical. It's too soft. And for a guy with that size and knowing the defender Okongwu's been in the past, it's very odd because we know he could be a lot more physical than he has been as late. And when we were playing a team like Detroit with Tobias Harris, Amar Thompson, Jalen Duran, some of the best inside scorers this season, then that's your recipe success if you're Detroit. And that's what they were doing. They were dominating inside and taking advantage of our weaker and less physical inside defensive presence.
You really saw that. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's something that you actually saw very early in the game. The pick and roll lob is a game that the Pistons love to play, mainly because of Asar Thompson. But you would really think that it'd be easy to have an answer for, but they really attack that from just anywhere because, most of the teams would draw that up on, just the top of the key, and you can kind of see it from a certain, aspect that makes it a little bit predictable. But the Pistons were able to get that edge on us just about everywhere on the floor, which made it a little bit tougher for us to stop. And that is something that they definitely abused a lot more in the second half. But
no, you're good. And not just the pick and roll tips inside, but like the little slip screens around for mid-range shots as well. And a guy who did that very well, funny enough, was coming off the bench. He played 20 minutes for Detroit. Former Atlanta Hawk, Red Velvet, Kevin Huerter was a master off the slip screens. And he shot 0 for 2 from deep, but finished the game with 8 points. And all 8 points were off the screens, and that turned into wide open mid-range shots that he was just not missing.
Don't forget about Karis LeVert. He didn't have, but he's also another former Hawk that we played in this game. Only played for us for 1 year last year, of course, and he didn't do a lot offensively. But Karis LeVert was great defensively in this game. Had a couple steals, had a couple blocks. Yeah, but really, he was just a good post defender for the Detroit Pistons in this game, and he really, I got to say, he was the one guy that actually had an answer for CJ McCollum in the second half during his little hot spurt. So shout out to you, Karis LeVert. But not Karis LeVert.
It's Karis LeVert.
It was Karis LeVert, yeah.
But one thing I will say is this was a game that the Atlanta Hawks could have taken control of from start to finish. And the one recipe was very simple for the Atlanta Hawks to stay in control of this game. And it was a big problem in the fourth quarter. And CJ McCollum was a hero for this game, because if it wasn't for CJ McCollum scoring 11 straight points to end regulation, the Atlanta Hawks would have easily lost this game. We would have never went to overtime. And it was a really odd issue because we were clicking on all cylinders offensively in the first half, making our open looks, shooting great contested. But in the fourth quarter, if your name was not CJ McCollum, you could not buy an open look. And there's even one possession that just summed the whole second half perfectly for Atlanta. CJ McCollum had not CJ McCollum, Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 3 wide open looks from the left arc, for the left side of the arc from deep, and he missed all 3. Off the left wing. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. And he missed all 3 shots. And it was those type of looks the Atlanta Hawks were getting really for majority of the fourth quarter. The Pistons' outside defense got really weak and stagnant, and the Atlanta Hawks weren't taking advantage of it. And it was CJ McCollum who just had to, take over the game himself. He hit a lot of really big threes. One of them one-legged, which, John, I'm sure that was the shot you were referring to. Yeah. And then he had
off a great rebound by Jock Landale, by the way. So got to give credit to our boy Jock. He did make that possible.
And to tie the game in the final seconds was that contested mid-range shot on the right baseline that he nailed with the foul and one mid-range that tied the game before the Pistons went on their side of the court, missed the game-tying shot on their end, which led the game going to overtime. And John, I want to kick it off to you because talk about what was a very chaotic overtime and talk about the final position that Detroit had where they could have very easily taken this game away.
Let me just get into that final possession. Let me just get into that final possession real quick. Because I don't know. I genuinely think that was divine intervention from God Himself. Because that was Jalen Duren. Your best player on the court because of Cade Cunningham's injury. Your best player on the court. He's what, 6 foot, 11, 7 foot. He's 6'10". I 6'10" in the post. Was that what the Pistons are scoring in the post? And you have a basically a wide open post move ramp or shot or post hook or something, and you miss it. I just don't know. I just don't understand how Jalen.
First off,
I love Jock Landale, man, but that was a horrible box shot attempt on Jalen Duren.
It was.
Yeah, exactly. It was a horrible box shot attempt. Jalen Duren really had no excuse to miss that.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He should have made that easily.
Which, I mean, the game plan from the inbound was clear. It was always meant to go to Tobias Harris, and he was a great inside scorer all night. And it was set up for him to run around the slip screen once again and take that mid-range from the right side, which all credit to Dyson Daniels, defended that shot perfectly. Dyson Daniels could not defend that shot any better than he did. And then
which led to the overshot. Led to the overshot. So, yeah.
The ball hit the back of the rim with a couple seconds to spare. You're right, Andrew. Jock Landale put in no effort to box out for that rebound. Watch Jalen Duren get the ball right behind him, and with one arm had that wide open floater. I think he just got too excited and left it way short. And you could tell by Jock Landale's reaction after he missed a shot. You could just see him take that big sigh of relief because I think even Jock Landale thought the game was over after the look that he caused Duren to have.
Yeah.
If you look at the replay when he got the rebound, it's actually interesting because he was leaning backwards when he took the shot. I don't know if it's because he thought that I really don't know.
He's probably expecting Landale to contest a shot, and he did it. I think he was probably expecting to have to hit a little fader there.
Well, I think he was expecting Landale to be on his backside, and he was actually going to try to draw a foul, but then realized that he had the open floater and didn't need to do that. And I think that's what left him short. So a little bit of unintentional mind games from Jock Landale there, but in the end, we walk away with a massive victory. A big ego boost for this Hawks team for sure.
Real quick, I want to ask you guys a quick question about CJ's missed jumper, when I was going into overtime. If you don't remember, we had the ball. The ball with 1.5 seconds left, and we gave the ball to CJ.
Which of course we did.
I was talking with a buddy of mine who's also a Hawks fan. And he didn't necessarily like CJ taking that shot.
I didn't either.
Really? How come?
It was too predictable because he scored the last 11 points at the end of regulation.
But who would you else rather have taken that shot?
That's also a fair question to ask because nobody on that Hawks offense was clicking all quarter. Like I mentioned, we had a lot of wide open looks that we just flat out missed, left a lot of points on the table, which forced the game to go to overtime in the first place. And CJ McCollum had to quite literally save the day, and he clearly had the hot hand, which is why we drew it up to go to him. But the shot was really well contested because everybody in Detroit knew where the ball was going, and it was too predictable. I mean, what I would have done was I would probably let Nah take the final shot. A guy who had the hot hand all night. He had a really sloppy fourth quarter, but no way he would have missed it another open look if given the chance. Nah's been clutch in the past. He showed it in the postseason last year. He showed it this year in Atlanta. So if you ask me, I think I would have probably just changed the pace, probably threw the short off a little bit, and had Nah take the last shot.
I mean, CJ's kind of built this reputation over the years. He's going to be the guy that takes the last shot. I mean, we saw it in that MLK game against Milwaukee when there's that big controversial move by CJ McCollum. That's just going to be his archetype. And I don't hate the shot at all, actually. It was great contest, but I actually think the last pivot step back that CJ did and just inside the left wing actually gave him enough separation where that was an open shot for CJ McCollum. And he did hit the rim. I mean, he was very close, just overshot it just a little bit. So I actually think the Hawks built the best scenario there. It went to the right person. And CJ trusted his ability to get that last bit of space for separation, which he did. It was an open look for him. Sure, it was deep where it made it a difficult shot, but it was open. It was CJ McCollum. We did miss it, but I actually do think it was a great drawn-up play by the Atlanta Hawks off the inbound. So I actually didn't mind it whatsoever.
I agree with Andrew, but Jason, I also agree with you as well. Yes, yes, like CJ. Yes, like everyone in the building knew that CJ was going to get that ball. Also CJ was also very, very hot going into that place. Obviously, there's no one else that I would have trusted to make that shot than CJ McCollum. So, I agree with both of y'all, honestly.
I'm gonna step in and be the Chris Fowler real quick. I just feel like because somebody needs to. We do have 2 more games to get into, but we're also at the 55-minute mark.
We could go through these last couple of games pretty quickly. Really quick, I think it's important to note, just to prove the point that the Pistons has still been really good without Cade Cunningham. That overtime loss to Atlanta was actually their first loss since Cade Cunningham went down, and they have played a lot of really good opponents since his injury. But, John, we're going to kick it off to you. Tell us about what happened Friday night that ended the Atlanta Hawks winning streak, that tough, really close loss in Boston.
Yeah, Chase and I were at the Braves game, so we weren't able to watch this game. So we'll kind of let you take this one over, Joyner.
So we went to Boston. No Jaylen Brown. Which funny thing about going to Braves game, Jaylen Brown was wearing a Braves hat.
I heard about that. I remember you talking about that.
Wearing a Braves hat. Yes, he's from Atlanta, but you're wearing a Braves hat while playing against the Atlanta Hawks. That's
I
don't think that they should allow it. I don't think that he should have went. I think that either he's secretly trying to get to Atlanta or maybe I don't know. That's just it's very fishy. Yes, it was opening. I believe that was opening day, right? The Braves.
Yeah, it's opening day for the Braves. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Because it was opening day for the Braves. You're playing against the Atlanta Hawks and you're wearing an Atlanta Braves hat.
I will say I do understand the controversy there. I will say, he is obviously from Atlanta, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying this because it's what I know. It's Braves hats are also just flat out street drip. Anybody in street clothes.
Like Yankees hats and Red Sox hats.
You're gonna see
street.
You're gonna see a lot of people that aren't even Braves fans wear a Braves hat just because just because that logo is just so well known and it is considered street drip. I'm not saying that's why he was wearing it because he is from Atlanta, so he probably is a Braves fan. But I still see what you're saying, Joyner. Against the Atlanta Hawks, he probably should have went with something else.
Atlanta Hawks, though,
I still see what you're saying. It is a little,
If y'all remember, If y'all remember, there was a game last year where the Timberwolves were playing in Atlanta, and Anthony Edwards showed up to the game in Atlanta Braves hat as well for the same reason, because he was from Atlanta, and Anthony Edwards has spoken about it before. He said he's a really big baseball fan, and growing up, he always loved the Atlanta Braves. So and it was controversial too, and he just went out and said like, "Hey, I keep basketball, basketball, and I keep baseball, baseball. I'm not going to be afraid to say I'm an Atlanta Braves fan. I'm from Atlanta, of course I am. So
Right.
I'm sure Jaylen Brown probably had the same intentions behind that.
I know, but
I understand the controversy though. I understand the controversy.
That professionally they should when you're playing against a team from that.
I understand the controversy.
Yeah, but anyway, so we played a game against the Celtics. Tatum's been back, obviously. I believe the only guy that was out for Boston was Jaylen Brown.
Right. Yeah, he had
I
that.
don't really know the roster fully, but I mean,
it was
Vucevic either, because they got Vucevic. I believe on
right.
one day.
Yeah, he's not gonna be back until like early April. Something like that. I have him on my fantasy team, so I've been keeping up with his injury tracker.
Yeah, and I believe the Hawks were fully. Yeah, no, the Hawks were fully healthy. Yeah. So I mean, so there was honestly really no excuse. I mean, no excuse to lose this game. But I mean, remember this is against the Boston Celtics, who are the 2 seed in the East. So anyways, Jalen Johnson was the Hawks didn't score. I'm not getting into the games because Payton Pritchard off the bench for Boston had 36 points, which props to him. I mean,
he's a monster, man. Very underrated guard in the league.
Very similar to the game earlier in the year when Boston visited Atlanta and absolutely blew our brakes off. Pritchard had a really big night that night as well. I think he scored around 35 points that night as well. So, I mean, Pritchard just had our number all season long.
Yeah. I mean, as Joe Johnson finished with 29 points. The scoring from the field wasn't really the greatest. He finished with 9 for 20 from the field, 5 for 11 from 3. CJ McCollum had 21 points. Nikhil had 20. Dyson Daniels had 6 points. Okongwu had 8. Kispert had and then the bench didn't really help out, which I think that was the main problem. The bench isn't scoring a lot, then you're not really going to win a lot of games because, like, speaking of the Boston's bench, I mean, we just mentioned it. Pritchard had 36. Tatum finished with 26 and 12 rebounds. Sam Hauser had finished with 10 points. Derek White finished with 10, and then Baylor Scheinerman finished with 3. Luka Garza also finished with 11. And then basically this was basically what Mike Chase or Andrew said. Basically, Payton Pritchard's been owning us the last few times we've played. So just a tough, just a tough loss. Like, Hawks played pretty solidly, but Boston just ran away with it towards the end. So
it was really like a mirror image of the game before against Detroit, except it didn't have the same outcome. The Atlanta Hawks got off to a 25-9 start, up by 16 halfway through the first quarter. Our shooting stayed consistent the entire first half. Boston did close in the lead heading right into halftime. They made 7 3-pointers in a row. As you mentioned, John, Jason Tatum had a really poor night shooting. He finished with a good bit of points, but he really didn't start clicking till about halfway through the third quarter when he had that and one mid-range. But prior to that shot, we were really doing a great job locking him down. But it was just like the third quarter against the Pistons. When the third quarter came around in Boston, the Atlanta Hawks could not buy an open look. And it's a weird cold stretch that the Atlanta Hawks kind of caught on towards the end of this week. And I hope that's something that doesn't stick around because it's very uncharacteristic characteristic to what the Hawks offensive has been this year. We've been attacking the defense where it hurts. If they give us open space, we take full advantage of it, and we got to continue that pace of play. I don't want to be one of these things where we shoot ourselves in the foot and we just leave points off the board when the opportunity's there for the taking. And we especially can't do that when we play teams like Boston, like Detroit, and those are the type of teams we're going to face come playoff time. So that's kind of a consistent error that we've seen recently that hopefully Quinn Snyder zones down on, and we can get back to shooting consistently when the opportunity presents itself. But Andrew, what do you got?
I say let's just get back into the Kings game because we are running out of time here.
Yeah. If you want to go ahead and open up that one, Andrew, talk about what happened last night against the LA Kings, Sacramento Kings, the worst record in the league, a 10-point victory, aka Quinn Snyder's 500th win. Shout out Quinn Snyder.
And Jalen Johnson also was it the Boston game or this game? He reached 1K assists.
Oh, it was against Sacramento. Yeah, against Sacramento. So a very milestone night for the Atlanta Hawks.
He had a double with 10 assists and 26 points this game. So.
Another milestone to throw in here as well is the Atlanta Hawks officially clinched a winning record after their win against Sacramento. The first time we will officially have a winning record at the end of the regular season since the 2020-2021 season where the Atlanta Hawks went on their Eastern Conference final run.
This is 2022.
Yeah, it's the season we went on our Eastern Conference final run. It's the last time we've officially had a winning record. The year after our Eastern Conference final run is the year that we is the first time since we've had an official winning record at the end of the regular season. This game was one of those Quinn Snyder experiments, I'll say, especially when it comes to the starting five. We kind of went with a different starting five in this game, which, I don't blame Quinn Snyder whatsoever because given the state of the Sacramento Kings and to rest the Atlanta Hawks a little bit, we did have some players get some decreased minutes. CJ McCollum got some decreased minutes. Corey Kispert got some decreased minutes. And we threw in Jock Landale in the starting five for this game. So he got 35 minutes. And let me tell you,
but we also didn't have a Congo or Dyson. So
yes, that's what I was saying at the start, just to rest some players. John Landale, he grabbed the 35 minutes he got, in the starting five and just completely ran with it. So all hands out to John Landale. He had 19 points, 13 rebounds, 7 of those being defensive. Now, he only had 4 assists, but he did come away with 2 blocks in this game as well. Arguably the best game John Landale has had since he's put on a Hawks jersey, but he was just shooting the ball with confidence tonight, knocked down a couple 3-pointers. I think he had 2 of them to be exact, but he shot 63% from the field altogether. And, like I said, the defensive rebounding was really prominent for him tonight. He was scoring really well inside. Now, like you said, it's not a threatening Kings lineup when you look at it for face value. I mean, yes, DeMar DeRozan, he did have a very nice night, shot 50%, 22 points, but wasn't really complimented by a lot of other players, especially coming right off the bench. Like Nate Clayford almost had 25 minutes of playing time, but barely posted up any notable stats. He shot 1 for 11 from the field. But all in all, this is just a game where the Atlanta Hawks stuck to their strengths defensively. We forced 18 turnovers in this game, which always makes your job easier when you're trying to score from one end to the other. Very prominent night when it comes to just intercepting passing lanes, using our quick hands. No Asa Newell, of course, no Caleb Houston. So we didn't get to see much of those young guys step in towards the garbage minutes of this game. But it was fun seeing those players like Jock Landale, Muhammad Gay, get those increased minutes so we could rest some of our other players. Because we all know Kongu had a rough night in Detroit. He had a rough night in Boston. He needed this time to kind of step back and catch himself. Zach Reed even scored 13 points on 60% shooting. So it's just one of those nights where you knew the Hawks were to go in there and handle business. It was our 12th straight home win. Just a nice little solid pat on the back kind of game from Quinn Snyder for his 500th career win. Nothing to stress about too much. Just you like to see those guys step in and really play their role when other guys need to take that step back for a moment. And that's something I love about Quinn Snyder. We saw it in the development with Akil Alexander Walker. We saw it in the development of Dawson Daniels. Quinn Snyder knows how to amplify a player's new role to a team, and it could be something in just a night's turnaround. I mean, in Boston, Jock Landale was just your typical role player off the bench, and this night he was the prime starter at the center spot, and he just ran with it like he's been a 3-year center vet at that starting spot with those minutes. And you've got to tip your hat to Quinn Snyder because he knows how to make a player feel comfortable in that new role, and he wants them to carry that on their shoulders and do it to the best of their ability. And he instills that confidence in guys like Jock Landale, who didn't even know if he was going to be in the league for, like they were talking about it in the Memphis game. Just a few weeks ago, he didn't even know if he was going to be in the league for much longer. And now he has found a true identity in this growing Atlanta Hawks team, and you've got to tip your hat to Quinn Snyder.
And just a quick little shout out to Zach Landale. That was his first double-double since his Atlanta Hawks debut on that short notice arrival against the Utah Jazz. So another milestone as well.
Was it also like a second start since that too?
Maybe so. Maybe so.
So what we're saying is, whenever John Landale starts, he has double-double.
Apparently he's a double-double machine when he gets a starting minute. I will say, it definitely wasn't the prettiest game, and it actually did get really scary. It was actually very back and forth until the Atlanta Hawks, went on a nice run to end the first half. But then about 8 minutes left of the game, the Kings did tie it up, and the Atlanta Hawks had to go on a 26-16 run. 18 of those 26 final points coming beyond the arc. So it kind of does just tear down the theory of what I was just talking about, kind of proving that the Atlanta Hawks won't get in this late game slump where we miss a lot of shots, especially from deep, because that's what saved us last night against the Kings and ended up giving us a double-digit win. So very nice to see us step up in that moment. But John, any final remarks on this game?
No, I'm good. Just a nice win that we needed after our tough game against Boston. I'm just excited for. Like I say, I'm just excited for this next week of Hawks basketball, and hopefully we can beat Boston tomorrow and continue this win streak, or go on a win streak.
Next time you hear from us, we'll be talking about a game at home against Boston, which, as John mentioned, hopefully they can stay depleted like they were previously. And then Wednesday night, we travel to Orlando to play a very depleted and very, just hard stomped on the ground Magic team. This team has some crazy low morale. I know they're going to be trying for a late season stretch, so definitely a game we cannot sleep on by any means. But then we do end the week on a nice change of pace, headed to Brooklyn, which should be a nice road trip win there before we finish the season on a really tough 4-game stretch. So 3 wins the Atlanta Hawks can really use before it gets really tough to end the campaign before playoff time. So any closing remarks before we send this one home, fellas?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Well, that being said, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Talkin ATL Hawks. From myself, Andrew, and John, we will see y'all next time. Go!